Hi friends, welcome to the final episode of The Fairy Tale Thief. I am so excited to close the door on this last chapter. It's been a hoot to read. It was a hoot to write. I'm looking forward to the sequels that I hope to get to. And I'm hopeful that you've enjoyed this experience and have followed along with me. Thanks so much for being here. If you enjoy the story, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you have pointers on how to improve my YouTube videos, I'm sure that there are a myriad of ways that I can make this much more professional than it is. And I welcome input. I welcome input. So here we are, episode 11, the final conclusion to The Fairy Tale Thief. Episode 11. Santa Magdalena's streets were dark and empty by the time Brock pulled onto Teresa Avenue. He rolled the BMW around to the back alley and parked. Not surprisingly, given the hour, the alley was as deserted as the street. Brock jumped from the car and typed the security code into the back door. It clicked open and Brock pushed inside. He froze. The shop was barren. Dust bunnies rolled across the empty floor. Brock stepped inside and spun around. How had this happened? When had it happened? Where was everything? He dashed into the showroom. Other than the gilded cash register sitting on the counter, the room was empty. He bolted up the stairs. Moonlight streamed through the windows and landed on the blank floors of the attic. The mirror, of course, as well as everything else, was gone. Brock slowly went down the stairs and out the front door. He stared at the front of the store. The lilac shop sign had been pulled down. He pulled his phone from his pocket, ready to once again contact his mom. It buzzed with an incoming message. My darling Brock, I'm sure you must have 100 questions, and in time, I hope that I'll have the opportunity to answer all of them. But for now, all you need to know is that I love you very much. And because I love you, I've decided it is best if I disappear for a short while. In time, I hope you'll understand that everything I do for you. We won't be able to communicate until I return, so please don't try to find me. This is for your safety. I've left you the cupboard, so you will have everything you need. Much love, Mom. Brock? He looked up. Gabby and Chase stood in front of him. He dimly registered that they were holding hands. You okay? Gabby asked. You look, Chase began. My mom moved out, Brock said, noting the shock in his voice. She's gone. And she took all her stuff. Wow, that's rough, Chase said. Gabby hugged him hard. What are you going to do? Gabby asked, pulling away. I'm not sure, Brock said. I mean, I'll be okay financially, but his mind tripped over spending his senior year alone in the big house. How could she do this? Is there anything you need? Chase asked. No, not really. Then he remembered Grace and the Wicked Queen. Wait, I need a mirror. Just any mirror? Gabby asked. Because I have a lot of those. Sure, why not? He had an idea, but he didn't know if it would work. Chapter 20. Along Sherwood Forest Main Street, papier-mâché skeletons hung from the rafters of the shops and restaurants. Baskets of marigolds lined the sidewalks, and carts selling candy skulls dotted the streets. Some of the skulls were made of spun sugar and decorated with a riot of colorful frosting, while others were made of chocolate. Someone pushed Grace from behind. She took a few steps to regain her balance, but didn't think much of it, given the crowded streets. When someone pushed her again, she turned to face Alicia. Alicia lowered her eyelids and sent Grace an if looks could kill glare. Stay away from Brock. Why should I? Alicia leaned forward so that their noses nearly touched. He's mine. People don't possess other people, Alicia, Grace told her. I possess his heart. That's a fairy tale, Grace said, repeating Blanche's words. You can believe it if you want, but it's not true. It's not real. This is real, Alicia said, cocking back her arm and aiming her fist at Grace's face. Alicia's arm wavered in the air. She struggled to move it, but it remained frozen. Alicia's face began to purple. They both stared at Alicia's wavering arm for a long moment. Then, remembering the mermaid stone, Grace started to laugh. She pulled the chain out of her skirt and gazed at the shiny stone. It glowed in the dark like her own personal beacon. She kissed it. "Thanks," she said, and she walked away, her heart hammering. How could she still not believe in fairy tales? Fireworks boomed over her head. Ghosts and ghouls around her oohed and awed in appreciation. She found a bench and sat down, her heart full of gratitude and her head full of plans. They could be home by Thanksgiving. Maybe her dad would be well enough to come home by Christmas. Who would Brock spend Thanksgiving with? And how about Christmas? Would Cordelia come home? What if she came home, found that he'd given the mirror away, and then was so mad at him she cut him off? Would she do that? What would Brock do? Where would he belong then? The sky exploded with another flash of white fireworks, but she was only paying half attention. The crowd screamed, their cries tinged with panic. She looked up and saw a giant black dragon winging her way. "Give me the mirror," the dragon hissed. Grace climbed to her feet and edged backward. The people around her ducked and covered their heads. Women screamed. Men nervously laughed. A witch beside her clutched her throat and prayed out loud. "I don't have the mirror," Grace stammered. "You must think I'm Blanche, but I'm not." The dragon shot a stream of fiery flames. They encircled Grace with warmth, but couldn't touch her. Grace grasped her necklace. "Mermaid stone," she said, sounding much braver than she felt. The dragon reared back and shot another blast at Grace. Confusion flickered over the scaly face as the flames once again parted around Grace like the Red Sea. "Depart, witch!" Charmant jumped in front of Grace, wielding his sword. He danced in place as the dragon sent her deadly flames his way. "Stay close," Grace whispered to Charmant. "She can't hurt me." The dragon tried swooping closer, but every time she got near, Charmant lunged at her with his sword. Stalemate. It occurred to Grace that this could get really boring. Footsteps sounded from behind. Grace glanced over her shoulder to see Brock hurrying their way, a mirror in a cheap plastic frame in his hand. Brock held it up to the dragon. "Look," he cried, "look at yourself. Do you think you're beautiful now?" The mirror reflected the dragon in all of her horror and flames. The creature blinked once, twice, 3 times, then fell to the ground in a sobbing heap. Slowly, she transformed from a black, scaly monster to a withered, gray-haired hag. "All I want is beauty," she cried. Blanche edged forward. Charmant stayed beside her, his sword at the ready. Blanche patted the hag's shoulder. "There, there," she murmured. But her words were lost in the roar of the crowd's applause. "Best show ever," a ghoul standing behind Grace said. "They just get better every year," a witch said. "I was here last week and the fireworks were nothing like this," a zombie said. Brock handed Grace the mirror and pushed through the crowd. He squatted beside the hag. "Mom?" he asked, his voice full of questions. The hag gazed up at him. "Ah, another secret," she said moments before she disappeared in a puff of pink haze. Grace turned the mirror to study it more closely. She saw nothing more than her face smeared with the zombie makeup. Badly shaken, Brock gently lifted the mirror away from her and handed it to Charmant. "Take this away," he said. "This is the mirror?" Grace asked. Brock shook his head. "Long story." Grace made to follow Charmant, but Brock wrapped his arms around her. She felt his shuddering. Filled with sudden and intense compassion, she held him tightly and lost herself in the sound of his beating heart. He leaned his forehead against hers, and they stood there, pressed together, until the crowd around them slowly dispersed. Chapter 21. Brock and Grace sat at the table in Brock's kitchen with Charmant while Blanche fussed over a pot of tea brewing on the stove. "The queen cannot be your mother," Charmant said. "For one thing, the queen has been in the fairy tale realm for these past many years, while your mother has been here." "Couldn't she have been in both places?" Grace asked. "According to you, she's always traveled a lot." Blanche placed a plate of apple slices and slivers of cheese on the table. "But that doesn't make sense," she said. "Why would she be searching for the mirror if she had it all along?" "The old woman looked like my mom maybe 40 years from now," Brock said. "Maybe she's your grandmother," Grace suggested. "Speaking of grandmothers," Blanche murmured. Grace thought Blanche looked way too happy about meeting her grandparents. She hated to tell her that they were sure to be a major disappointment. Grace glanced through the hedge of the dark windows next door. "They're asleep now." Blanche blushed. "Of course, I didn't mean right this second." Brock stood, pushing back his chair. "Here, let me show you the pool house where you can stay," he said to Blanche. You'll be in the upstairs bedroom, first door on the left, he said to Charmant. Roy did not look happy with the arrangement. Are you sure your mother won't mind uninvited house guests? You're not uninvited. I'm inviting you, Brock said. Besides, my mother isn't here, and I am. The moon shone high in the sky, letting them know it was well after midnight. I better go, Grace said. Let me walk you home, Brock said. The cold night air seeped through Grace's zombie sweater, chilling her skin. Brock walked so close beside her that she could feel his warmth radiating to her. His makeup gave him a chilling yet amusing look, but his expression was somber. She wanted to feel jubilant, celebratory, and he deserved all of those good feelings as well. After all, he had defeated a dragon using his wits and a simple, cheap mirror from the everyday world, but the heaviness in his mood hung between them. What happened to the mirror from the attic? She asked. He tensed. I had a better idea, he said after a moment of hesitation. But don't you think the queen will just come after the mirror again? Maybe, but she won't be here. Why not? The mirror's gone. The mirror's gone. It's not here. Where? Brock shrugged. Did your mom take it? Have you talked to your mom about it? These questions and a million more flooded Grace, but the expression on Brock's face silenced her. We're safe now. He stopped and pulled her to face him. You're safe. Reaching up, he cupped her cheek in his hand. Because of the magic cupboard, we can have anything we ever want. He paused and took a step closer. His breath fanned her face. But that's not exactly true. No? Grace slid his hands down her arms and laced her fingers with his. The magic cupboard can't give me everything I want. Brock's lips hovered above hers. What do you want? Grace asked. You. But as he bent to kiss her, the ground shook and the words fee, fi, fo, fum rang out. Okay, friends, I hope you enjoyed The Fairy Tale Thief. To keep up to date with sales and freebies and other reading adventures, sign up for my newsletter at christytate.com. And if you enjoyed this book, you would probably enjoy my other Katie Tate books. You can find them on Amazon and on all online retailers. Thanks so much.